Okay, I think we've started. Hello, everyone. Hello, world. Thanks for joining and welcome to this week's Product People event. Before starting, please remember that you can watch the stream on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. Also, a reminder that this talk will be recorded, so if you want to share it afterwards with your fellow PMs, just head out to our YouTube channel. We also have a Slido running for you as always for you to give us some insights and ask questions directly to the speaker. Um, so whenever you want, you can scan the QR code, go on, keep the website open, and then ask any questions or leave any points you want. So the topic of this talk is product building and the power of persistence. The 1600-day streak. And before I hand it over to Alex, I'll just quickly go over product people as well. So I'm Hamza. I'm an associate product management consultant. I have over 2 years of experience in product and marketing and the likes. I worked in both B2C and B2C, B2B, and I'm having fun. And I'll also tell you a bit about product people. For those of you who are new here, our mission is to help companies discover and deliver great products faster. We do interim product management. We empower our product management community to share knowledge generously while managing the hands on work of a product manager, owner, or product leader on a fractional basis. We onboard super fast. We align teams and deliver great outcomes thanks to our in house team. And then to give back, we have free events like this one for one of the biggest PM communities in Europe with over 60,000 members. Now, before we start with uh, the actual presentation, we want to get to know you a bit. So you can head on over to our Slido and answer the following question. What helps you most to keep a long-term streak, whether it's Duolingo or product work? A clear daily habit and a consistent time slot. B, visible progress and milestones that show it's working. C, accountability to someone else, like a buddy or a team. And D, a meaningful purpose, like a goal or a mission that matters. We'll give everyone a couple of minutes. And while we're waiting, Alex, do you have any opinion on what option you choose?
I think definitely the accountability to someone else. We were talking backstage about how being on Duolingo with my mom makes us both keep our streaks because we keep reminding each other, hey, you need to do your Duolingo. But I think also like when I work in teams, I think that accountability with my team or like with the team member to continue to iterate or like improve on something, that really keeps me going. I think all of them are really good. But I think the real one for me is the accountability to someone else. I think like that's when I really do my best.
Yeah, that's totally valid. I've seen a couple of language learning apps also have this sort of buddy streaks. And I think it's one of the reasons why Snapchat was also quite popular. It has this social aspect to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a gamification feature that works pretty well because like you feel like you've accomplished something. It's kind of like in the old days when you used to mark X's on like calendars when you were studying for an exam or something, and you were like ticking down the days of like how long do I have left.
Yeah, totally. So we have the results back, and it seems like uh, most of the people agree with you, Alex. 67% have voted for C, accountability to someone else, and 33% have voted to D, a meaningful purpose, like a goal or a mission that matters. Yeah, super interesting. And I'll quickly go to the next slide and I'll hand it over to Alex in a bit. Before that, I'll just quickly give an intro. Alex is a VP Education and Community Manager for Engineering Practices at JP MorganChase in Glasgow. She is an international speaker, product community manager, former product and marketing manager for public cloud, software engineer, and conversational developer among other roles. In her work as a creative technologist, she combines content, community, and engineering to help people and products grow. Sorry. Think that's super impressive. And now I'll hand it over to you, Alex.
Sure. Thank you so much. So I am going to try to make this as interesting and fun and educational as possible. I do have a disclaimer. All views expressed are my own and do not represent the views of my employer. It's kind of like standard corporate disclaimers. But since I wrote this talk, I've actually changed jobs. And I am now on an 1,800-day streak on Duolingo. But this kind of covers my first 1,600 days where I was doing my Duolingo, and I was also building products and platforms, which was interesting because I decided to do it all at once. And sometimes it's hard to maintain the balance. But I've come out the other side, and I think I've come out okay with both of my endeavors. So I'm guessing that most people here have heard about Duolingo, or at least you've seen some of the angry owl things on Instagram. But the question is, have you managed to keep your daily streak strong? And my first question, if you're on the chat in LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere, I'm curious to see how many people here have kept a habit for 1,000 days or more. That's about 3 years of doing something daily. I'll make it easy, and I'll say also maybe like weekly or 2-3 times a week. So like if you go to the gym and you've kept your streak strong, I'm not expecting you to go every day. Everyone needs a rest day. But I'm curious to see if anyone here has got a longer streak. Also, if you have a longer streak on Duolingo than me, please message and let me know your name. I will friend you on LinkedIn because I want to chat at how you feel getting to like maybe 2,000 days. So while you all do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover in the next 20 minutes or so. And that's kind of the challenge, the journey, the framework, and what you can do with some of the things you're going to think about or learn today. So I'm going to talk a bit first about habits and why they matter, because I think it's super important that we kind of level set that Duolingo, product building, consistent daily improvements, iterations, agile, they're all based on habits. And I think it's really important to understand that consistency is key and iterating is key. And sometimes it doesn't have to be very big, kind of like things that you do every day, is the small things that compound over time. Duolingo also does a lot of research into kind of like language learning and learning in general. They're kind of branching out of just languages, but they've learned that actually people don't quit language learning because it's hard. They quit it because it's boring, or they quit it because they don't have the ability to build a habit or a system to integrate the habit into for it to work. And I think it always works better when you can integrate into a system you already have, or in a ritual or in kind of like a routine that you have where it fits naturally and it doesn't feel like it's really hard to keep. So for example, I generally do my Duolingo in the morning when I go on the train to work. And I know that I've done it, I've achieved something, I'm happy, and I can start my day. Similarly, on the product side with the product streak, you always look at consistently improving daily and thinking about, okay, how can we take feedback? How can I look at research or feedback daily? How can I talk to customers? How can I improve, and how can I integrate this into my day? So like, do I block out half an hour every day to do this? Do I do kind of like a data review every day? Like kind of small incremental things that help you understand your product or your users or your learning habits better. So the unexpected connection. Weirdly enough, I actually started my Duolingo learning and my new job in product at the same time. And it kind of coincided with me kind of like starting up these habits. Now, I didn't really expect it to be so similar in terms of my learning journey and experience for both of them. But I realized that there were a couple of things in common between them. So one of them was habit forming. We kind of talked a bit about that a couple minutes ago, where we have like repetition, we have recognition, complexity, so adding more and more things or more complex things to what you're learning. Then the product building, obviously, like iteration creates clarity, because like you're going through it again and again and again, and you understand it better, and you improve and you build upon it, and you can evolve kind of like a framework with all of the things that you've learned and you've seen work. And then the connection, they both require you to be persistent, they both require you to be consistent, and both of the experiences were actually centered around kind of like clear communication and frameworks that guide you over time. And I'm going to explain a bit about what that meant for us in the product building side. So we had a couple of challenges that we encountered, and these are challenges that a lot of other product teams, businesses, companies might encounter. And that's kind of like users struggling to understand what your product actually does. I've worked most of my time in tech with developer communities, engineering communities. So I basically was building and selling products to developers. I was selling them to very technical people. And very technical people do not like fluff. They do not like marketing speak. So you need to be very honest and transparent, and you need to communicate very well for them to actually, one, understand what your product does, and two, actually want to use it and then kind of like advocate for it to other technical users. Secondly, a lot of the time onboarding takes too long. The aha moment doesn't come, or it comes too late, and then you're kind of like losing customers. And similarly, that happens with language learning too. I know that I've installed so many other apps for language learning before Duolingo, and after a couple of days or weeks, they kind of just stay there in my phone until one time, like Google was just like, "Oh, you haven't used this in a while. Would you like me to delete it?" And I was like, "Actually, yeah, because I haven't opened it in like 6 months." And then teams can't articulate the product consistently. So even though maybe your product manager has a really good idea about what your product is or what it does or how it benefits users, the team as a whole working on the product doesn't actually have a common understanding of the product. They also don't talk about the product in the same way. So if you have content designers or marketers or customer success people, they might actually talk about your product in a very, very different way to the customers. That might end up being confusing, or it's not a unified kind of like brand that they're portraying. So how did I go on to this journey? And I was kind of like building my practice. So day one, while other people were starting to learn how to bake sourdough, my day one was actually, I think, the first week of the pandemic lockdown in COVID times. And I just decided that I'm going to start. I was starting my new job. I couldn't actually move to the location where I was supposed to be in because of the pandemic. And I found myself with the desire to start learning and practicing language learning. And I started learning Korean because I was already speaking about 3-4 languages, but also practicing my languages that I wasn't using every day. And then also kind of like starting to build my product practice because I was pretty new to product. I was coming from a software engineering role. So I was kind of entrusted to develop the product adoption side of our platform and products. Then by day 400, that's about a year and a bit, I kind of started understanding some of the patterns. I started building really good relationships and trust with my technical teams, engineering teams, architecture teams. And then we started to think about, okay, how are we communicating about this to our customers? By 800 day, that's about 2.5, 3 years. The roots were starting to grow. So I was already building a team. The frameworks are kind of like taking shape. We were feedbacking with our product teams. We were feedbacking with our customers, and kind of like we started to kind of like refine all of that. Now I started to also understand a lot better Korean. So I would be watching like a drama on TV, and then I'd be like, oh, the translation's wrong. That's not what they said. So like I actually started accumulating the knowledge to be able to be like, oh, the translation on TV isn't right. That's not the actual word they were using. Then branching, once we've tested and refined the framework, we started applying it to all of our products and running workshops with them to start educating them and having them adopt the framework to ensure that it's consistent across the platform. And I also started expanding to chess because I love chess, and actually the Duolingo version of it, of how they teach it and how you practice it, is actually really good. And then bearing fruit. So that's 600 day. That was before I changed roles. Basically, we finalized, my team continued running this after I actually left the team. So we had like content frameworks for products and platforms, and my language practice continues to this day. So what did this journey teach me? And the truth is that this is probably the most important thing. If you take nothing else from today, I think it's the consistency beats intensity, and kind of showing up every day and promising yourself to show up every day and build upon, learn, practice, exercise your skills is really important, no matter what they are. Whether it's cooking or playing an instrument or learning how to, design or draw, like any skill or any practice that you're trying to build does require consistency and does require you to be persistent. And it requires you to be comfortable with failing or sucking at something until you actually get better. Feedback loops are everything, whether that's from yourself, whether that's from software, whether that's from your team, your manager, etc., like your teachers. It's really, really important because they enable you to listen and understand. They enable you to adjust, and they enable you to perform kind of like constant testing of where you're at in your practice and your learning. And then the third one is really interesting because it's kind of obvious, but a lot of people don't think about this. But simplicity is really hard to create. Making things simple, from communications, emails, text, to actual hardware products like a phone or headphones or anything like that, like the simplicity and ease of using something, the more you want to achieve it, the harder it is and the more work you need to put into it. So I'm going to talk about the framework that we came up with for our technical product and platforms. And the way that we look at it is we work with our teams and we try to embed this into the whole team, not just a product team. But they need to first understand the core problem that their product is solving. Like, what is the user trying to use this for? What are the benefits that it brings, and how does it solve their problem? Then we tell them to think about, right, your whole team needs to be aligned on this. You all need to understand and explain and talk about your product in the same way. And then you need to kind of translate those features and those things that your product does into the benefits for the customer and end user, right? So why does it matter to them? Why would they choose yours and not something else? And then think about, how do you embed all of that into progressive onboarding? How do you get them to that aha value moment quicker so they actually get the value and the benefit really fast and they want to continue to use your product or your platform? So here's some stats. This is from kind of like around the time I left. We grew our documentation usage quite significantly, so like 5 times. We had quite a lot of internal engineering and technical users, but initially we didn't actually have that many of them. It was also at the beginning of the adoption cycle for our platform, but we managed in about 5 years to really, really grow the customer base. We also improved our customer satisfaction to over 70, which for technical products is actually really, really good. And we had more and more of our developers become active users of our platform and our products. So we increased our activation rate by about 1,500%. Again, this isn't a 1 month, 1 year story. This is like a 5-year story. A lot of the times people might not even be working on the same product or platform for that long. But I think this has been like a really good learning journey for me, where I've got to stay with the product and through its iterations and growth and my own growth. And I grew a team and like I trained my team. it's been like a really, really interesting and like privileged position to be in, to be able to do that for that amount of time. So here's kind of the example of our productivity framework. This is kind of what you should be looking at in terms of checking either before your launch or as you are finding that maybe your customers are asking more questions, kind of like going back and thinking about, do we have all of this? Do we have a plan for this? Is it clear? Do we communicate it clearly? Do we need to focus on all of this? Are some of these not really important to us? Like, do we focus more on community and maybe less on support? Or kind of like, what is your model that you're following, and where do you need to put more effort into? Similarly, for platforms, it looks slightly different because platforms are more complex, and they usually have a lot more components and products, maybe offerings within them. So you do think about it slightly differently in terms of the framework that you're following for like your content and your strategy and your communications basically with your customer base. So how can you do this? And how can you take something away from today to implement in your own practice, whether that's personal or professional? So first, you need to know where you're at. And if there's a benchmark, if there's a test you can take to figure it out, or if you can kind of like sometimes you can do like these skill surveys where you can figure out where you're at. For example, if you're changing careers, you can look at, okay, what do I need to learn to get to where I want to be? Equally, if you're looking at your product, maybe look at, like, where are some users getting confused? Where are people dropping off? Look at some of your analytics and your data. If you're looking at like your support, what are some of the questions, tickets they raise a lot? What's not clear? And start documenting all of these gaps so you can figure out what you want to tackle next. Then you want to define your problem statement. So what is it that your product does? Test it with real users. Make sure that you have a really good understanding. If you have user researchers, even better, have them run this. But equally for you, if you're practicing a skill, like define the thing you're kind of like trying to achieve. Like, why? Like, are you trying to learn a language? What are you actually trying to do, and why? Is it because you're going on holiday somewhere and you want to speak that language? Is it because maybe your partner is of that nationality and you want to talk easier with their family, etc. Then you want to build your vocabulary. So whether that's language learning and you want to find maybe an application, or you want to buy a book that's going to help you learn that. Or if it's a product, like having a shared document for your team on how to describe features, benefits, use cases consistently. How do you refer to your product? How do you refer to features of your product? Because language matters and naming matters. So make sure that everyone is clear on all of that. And then, like we said earlier, consistency is key. So small daily improvements do compound, and they do help you improve. So every day, whatever it is that you're trying to learn or improve or practice, dedicate some time. Make sure that you're finding a way to integrate that into your system and your process and your schedule, so it doesn't feel like it's a chore. It feels like it's part of what you do every day, and it becomes a habit. I really admire Tom Brady, who is an American football athlete. And I really like what he said once. And he said, to be successful at anything, the truth is you don't have to be special. You just have to be what most people aren't. And that's consistent, determined, and willing to work for it with no shortcuts. Unfortunately, that's true for almost anything. I know that with the and I have to talk about this because everyone talks about this, but with the advent of AI, it seems like this is not as important anymore because you have tools now to help you get there faster. But the reality is that so does everyone else. So what will make you different and stand out and special is that you still have the fundamentals, you have the context, you have the depth and the skills and the practice and the taste and the judgment to be able to make good product decisions. And I think that the only way you can get those if you're consistent, determined, and willing to work for it, and you keep on working on yourself and your knowledge and your skills. I don't think there's really any other way. So you probably need to figure out how you're going to get to do that, and how you're going to get into the habit of doing that. So if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, there's a QR code in there. You can also get the slides by scanning the other QR code. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take some. I see Hamza's back.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a really good presentation. And I think I've learned a lot more. And I feel motivated as well. So it was like a 2-in-1.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. And let's see. For anyone out there, you can again scan the QR code. It's going to open the same Slido link, and then you can leave any questions, and then we'll wait for a bit. In the meanwhile, I can quickly go over um, a few of product people's slides, and then we can come back to the Q&A and then see what people are asking us. So what use cases does product people cover? Our interim product managers and owners cover parental leaves, scale your product management team quickly, or lead key initiatives while bridging the gap until a full-time employee joins. With us, you can get temporary help to drive product discovery and delivery for a deadline and create big impact in a short time. And we can also coach your product management team to reach their full potential through streamlining processes from 0 to 1, including product ops and product management. And we can also assist you with running discovery to uncover your next impactful initiative or product. We have worked with a lot of clients. Selected B2C clients include Eventim, eBay, DeepL. And then for B2B clients, we have Localize, we have the World Health Organization, we have JetBrains. And then when it comes to our stats for our company, we have supported over 690 teams. We have 40 leaders and product managers in-house, and our leadership is 59% in the company. It's composed of women. And now we're going back to questions. I see we have a couple. The first question is, it's I think related to your streak in Duolingo. So did you actually learn languages in Duo? I was super impressed with you reading Korean on subtitles. So I think this
Yes.
person.
So I did actually, and the thing was, I wanted to learn Korean because it's very different from all of the other languages I know, and it has a different alphabet. So I wanted to learn the alphabet because it's very different, and it's an exercise for my brain. Their alphabet was also designed to actually be easy to learn. So when they recreated like their entire alphabet, they made it so that people could become literate. So I was thinking about maybe Japanese, but then I was like, that's probably going to be way too hard with all the kanji. So I decided I'm going to do Korean. And I'm not like fluent. I tried to do one of the Duolingo lessons. They now also offer lessons. And I feel like my tutor thought I'm going to be way further along in like conversational kind of like Korean. And after that, I actually just went back to the app because I was like, he made me feel bad and I don't want to do this again. So I'll just stick with my app. But I do have some Korean friends and I sometimes practice with them. And they did actually say like, you know what, like I understand far better than I speak, but I know like all the usual kind of things. And if I listen to like Korean kind of like TV shows or music or stuff, like I can pick out kind of like the words and sentences and things. So it's worked. I would say that what it does work better for me is practicing my languages that I don't use daily to make sure that I keep on kind of like I keep them fresh. And the fact that it makes me have to speak out words and things like that, I find super helpful. So yes, I use it, but I think it's far better for me for practicing. For learning, it does take far longer than you would if you just went to kind of like classes and stuff.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then we have another question that says, do you get back to your streaks or persistent tasks even after breaking the cycle once? Like, for example, you accidentally skip a day.
So with Duolingo, you actually get something like, I think like maybe like 3 days. You get like a streak freeze. So even if you miss it, they will keep it for you. I will say that I don't think I've missed a day in Duolingo for years, just because even if I'm traveling, like I'll do that first. And then like if I switch time zones, I know it's done. But I do with other kind of like activities, I always kind of like, if I miss a day, it's fine. It's just coming back to it and keep on going the next day that matters. So like sometimes I might have a bad day, I might feel sick, I might be too busy, right? So if I don't do it one day, that doesn't give me an excuse not to, but I do tend to put things into my calendar so I get a reminder that like, hey, you should be doing this. It doesn't work with everything, but I think again, if it doesn't work, it means there's something wrong with your system and it's not where it needs to be in your daily flow to actually not make it annoying. So like keep doing it, keep changing it and figure out like, why is it not working? Like, is the system and process around it, like your routine, not what it needs to be? And is that why you're kind of like trying to skip it? Like if you skip it a couple of days, like 3, 4, 5 a week, it means that something's not working and you need to try something different.
Yeah, that I think that's a super interesting approach. Instead of just giving up, maybe you can evaluate why.
Oh, and actually, I have another thing. So there's this really cool book by Mel Robinson called Let Them. And in that, she talks about this strategy, which works for me. Basically, when you don't want to do something, like get out of bed, go and wash your dishes, go do laundry, whatever, right? You start counting in your mind 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you just get up and do it. Like that countdown. And then it's like at the end of the countdown, I'm just going to go and do it. Saves me from having to like go into this kind of like cycle of like, oh, but I don't want to do it. Oh, I'll just 5 more minutes. And right. It's like, no, I know I'm avoiding this. I'm trying to procrastinate. Nope. I'm just going to, at the end of the countdown, I need to get up and to go and do it. Right. So it's like, it's finding the stuff
Yeah.
and like mechanisms that work for you to make you stay motivated and doing it.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We should check it out. Everyone watching on LinkedIn. And then I think we have our final question. What was the lowest point in your 1600-day journey? And how does that moment of almost giving up map to a challenge you faced in product building?
Uh, so I've had many low days. But I think like, I think I think the lowest days are when I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm trying to do everything, and it's kind of like the fact that I need to keep my streak going is a bit of an additional stressor. And I'm like, oh no, like I really don't want to do this. I'm just gonna do one lesson like quickly, and then like I kept my streak. I feel like that's the days when I'm not really learning. I'm just doing it because of the habit, but like I'm not really putting my all into like the practice. And I think that I know that, but also I'm giving myself a bit of grace and being like, actually, this isn't my best day, and I'm not feeling great, and I'm a bit stressed, and I'm a bit over the place, and it's okay. But then I kind of internally talk to myself and be like, yeah, okay, that works for like a day or two, but like if you really want to improve, you kind of need to make an effort. And I can see like sometimes I make like 5, 6, 7 mistakes and my score is like 60%, and I'm like, I'm having a really bad day, because normally I'll have over 85 because I'm paying attention and I'm doing it purposefully. But like in those days when like I get a super low score, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really giving it my best. But equally, if I get high percentage scores all the time, it kind of tells me, maybe you need to skip this unit and go to the next one because like you're finding this too easy. So I think like those indicators, whether it's in product or in Duolingo, right? Like those things kind of tell you where you're at, but you need to take some time to think about it of like, why is my score low? Or like, why did we have a drop in active users this month, right? Like those are the things that you need to start thinking about, and like think about the data is telling you that something's happening, but it doesn't really tell you what, and it's your job to go and find out why and how do you fix it. I think we have one more question, and then we
Yeah.
can wrap.
Yes, we have another question. So the Duo app uses streaks, badges, and reminders for habit formation. Which mechanics have you borrowed or avoided when designing your framework?
So we used the reminders, and we used kind of like appreciation in terms of the framework we use. We also kind of made it a bit of a competition with a leaderboard between our product teams. So we basically took the different dimensions by them, where we would look at the teams and be like, hey, you started from here and you ended up here at this month, or like someone else has not made any change or any improvement. So we tried to make it a little bit kind of like fun and interesting, but also people started paying attention because like, hey, like, why is my product not going up the leaderboard? And I'm like, because you haven't really done anything this month to make it go up. Like everything's the same as it was last month. So maybe you need to do a bit more. And we would go and we would kind of like celebrate and appreciate the teams that were actually either making the biggest improvement. So like they were maybe not great, but now they're like middle of the board. And also the people who were consistently staying at the top and consistently like updating and maintaining like their framework kind of like content and domains and stuff. So I think like we did try to make it a bit more interesting, whereas people weren't just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll do it once and then I'm never going to go back and look at it again. We actually tried to help them build that habit by gamifying a little bit the experience.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That was super insightful. I'll quickly wrap this presentation up. But if anyone has any other questions or any feedback, feel free to directly reach out to Alex or comment on our LinkedIn or YouTube live stream below. Um, Let me quickly go over the rest of the slides. Thank you all for your questions and answers again. For product people, we'd also like to mention that we are hiring and we have APM and PM roles open. You can apply by scanning the QR code. And then we also have our newsletter where we share fun insights, stories, and experiences we gain during missions with our clients. So the next live stream we have is Vibe Coding Products with Lovable. So stay tuned in for next Tuesday. And then finally, thank you everyone for joining in, leaving your questions, and thank you so much, Alex, for your insights. It was a really fun session as well.